Ever since a young age, I felt a calling. I sensed a passion for community service. Journalism provided me with the means to fulfill that passion. I love conversation, especially those surrounding living the best human experience possible. I had a vision recently to create a space where our community could come together in healthy dialogue about mental health awareness and breaking the stigma surrounding these tough conversations. This is how Soul Care Sessions was born.
I finally understand why I'm always seeking information and knowledge. Some of that is a trauma response.
It is.
Because it's just like, you're supposed to know. Yep. And it's like, no one's gonna catch me slipping because I am going to know this information. But all of that also comes from things that happened in my childhood. And even through this self-discovery and self-awareness, I also learned, like, you know, I created an inner vow at 8.
That's early.
An inner vow at 8 that I was still living at in my 40s.
I realized once I retired from the military that I had painted a facade my entire career, 33 years in the military. And that facade was for everybody to look at me and look at my family and say, this is what right looked like. But what they didn't know, emotionally, I was suffering inside. I was broken. And so when I retired, that secure blanket was no longer there. And I had to, and it was during COVID, I had to face the fact of the things that I did not like, you know, in my marriage and who I was as a very successful military person now that's, you know, in civilian society.
For generations, those in the minority community have suffered trauma, and it's going to take a new generation to break that cycle.
Because there is no better place to see intergenerational trauma than looking in the faces of boys who have been abandoned, boys who have been neglected, boys who have been abused in any number of ways, boys who enact abuse on one another constantly. Being in a space where the adults who are supposed to protect you and provide security either cannot do it because there's not enough of us, they don't care to, or they are actively traumatizing you as well.
I know that doing the work that I do, I am not the only one going through the abandonment, the rejection issues. The clients I saw were frankly triggering me. So I started going to therapy. My therapist at the time would have me do the assignment that we all hate, which is write a letter to your dad. Oh my gosh. Write a letter to your friend. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I was covering up so much emotional trauma, right, that I endured as a child. But I think when the pendulum swung for me, when it came to being a father, I swung it so much that I was a good father, but I could have been a better father.
Everybody doesn't have the stamina or the wherewithal to just say, I'm just gonna move on. It happened, and just kind of press through it. And if I think about it, in my family, they think they have pressed through it, but honestly, you haven't. Nope. Because when I listen to some of my family members talk about things, they'll talk about it like it happened last week, but then when you go deeper, you find out this thing happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but it's still fresh in the body and all those things. And so I've been really doing the deep work, even to the point of, and I'll talk a little bit more about this book that I'm holding, even to the point of getting trauma out of my body.
because a lot of what I'm trying to do in the movement at Couch with Christian, with your Grace Space, with the book that I wrote, is I wanted to give Black women especially language. I wanted to normalize. I wanted to give you words that you can use if you wanted to go to your friend and say, I don't think I have daddy issues, but I can at least say that abandonment hit a little different. I'm a daddy's girl. What do you mean I have daddy issues? What do you mean? Right? But those are my perfectionists. Those are my people pleasers. And it's for you to name. And so I really wanted to get my story told. I wanted to heal myself because it was me sharing, and it was me saying, Christian, I see you, and not having to wait for daddy to see me, or anyone that represented whoever triggered me.
I think it's toxic theology, right? That sometimes people put themselves in a framework because they are searching for something, right? And they find it in this framework of saying, because I'm affiliated with this, I'm better than that. And so I think there's toxically an environment that we can put ourselves in if we're not careful, because we're searching for something. And that comes from generational trauma. It comes from generational trauma, right? That's where it comes from. I've seen, I've been around the world several times, and a lot of times our worst enemy is another black person.
This first event was definitely surreal and has opened the door for even more discussion. I'm so excited and thankful to Optus Bank and other sponsors for facilitating these types of discussions. I believe this is the gateway for many to living in a happier and healthier mental space and life.